kind of talk about we compared the costs of two parks in particular. We compared Hodig Park and Pioneer Park, comparing utility lines like power lines, water lines, like where sewage lines, all of that kind of stuff. And at Pioneer, it just seemed more feasible because more of the lines are in the area comparing to the cost it would bring up to put it at Hodig Park. And the collaboration in building it with a splash pad would also most likely be better to build with the skate park because a combination of them both. Although there are concerns with both of them being safety concerns and where everything is actually going to go, I think we're still pretty optimistic about it. And putting those two together will kind of, hopefully, in our eyes, bring together the thought of action sports within our community, especially being at Pioneer Park. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hunter?
Hello, my name is Hunter Hapka. I'm also with the project of Over It, and while we are very optimistic about this process, going both through the possibilities of Pioneer and Hodag, even though for our group they both present different pros and cons. And we have had a lot of discussion, and we appreciate the city's cooperation, especially from Mayor Hannes and Randy, hosting several meetings with us and listening to our concerns, such as proximity to the splash pad and other safety reasons. And on behalf of Over It, I would like to thank you for listening to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Melinda?
Hi, I'm Melinda Childs with Art Start, and I have been working with Over It. I think they totally do a great job speaking for themselves on their thoughts on location. I just wanted to thank council and the city for working in collaboration with us over this past few months. Let you know that Over It has been continuing to meet even past the completion of our feasibility study. They have been super thoughtful, super excited. I think we met 3 times on location, so they're a great asset to the city, and I just want to encourage you to keep them involved in the design process going forward, as well as the steering committee that we had formed with our feasibility study. So thanks for the collaboration. Let's keep it going. And also, I know you had a presentation on the One Nation, One Project, and thanks for your support of the city's involvement in that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Stevie?
Hello, I'm Stevie Hank, the Assistant Executive Director for the Oneida County Fair. The fair has called Pioneer Park home since 2009. Since Pioneer Park hosts the fair, the largest annual family event of its kind in the county, we ask that the event be taken into consideration when discussing future improvements for Pioneer Park. Thank you.
Thank you. I got a Richard. Correct. I just didn't know if that was only for Olson. Yeah. Okay. I got Miss Hagan, of course, Olson. I have a Chad, Olson too. Jesse. Okay. Jones for last name, Olson. And then the last name, I got 133 Hillside Road, but I can't make out the name. I don't know what that would be for. Okay. Anyone else for public comment? Not seeing none. Does any of the alders have any public comment? Nope. Okay. Oh, was that regarding Olson or something else?
Oh, no. I thought it was a sign sheet. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. You're okay. Okay. Moving on to mayor's comments, which is number 5. I do not have any at this point. We do not have presentations, which is number 6. Moving on to number 7, which is a public hearing for Olson Lane Special Assessment. So at this time, I would like to open the public hearing. This is regarding possible action regarding an assessment for water utilities on Olson Lane. Okay. Going back to Richard.
I'm Richard Ottman. I live at 3430 Olson Lane. And I'm kind of worried about this because we never even were told about the construction. We never got any kind of notification on it. We didn't even know it was going on until after it had started, and still didn't know what was going on until after I went out and actually talked to some of the construction people and said that they were putting in the sewer and water. So we didn't know anything about this. We didn't know anything about having to pay for anything until after the fact, when we got that letter from the county or from the city saying that this is how much we're going to have to pay for getting that put in. So, and on mine, if I would have known about it, I could have saved a lot. I saved some money on that too, because I had 2 lots that I've been saving money to consolidate into 1 lot. And I had that done, but I'm getting charged for 2 lots. So that's another thing that's kind of getting me. So that's pretty much all I have, except for even in your town or in your city minutes, it said that you were supposed to be sending out a letter to us 10 days prior, at least 10 days prior to the meeting to okay that Olson Lane construction also. And we never got anything about that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Kathleen?
I just purchased a lot on Olson Lane in 2017 and put up a new house and moved in just recently. Before I bought the lot, I did a lot of investigation because it had a house on it. I called the city, asked about city sewer and water. They said there was none. I didn't need to worry about anything. I could have put up a well and used the existing septic that was there. I've recently sold off all my property so I could pay for my house. I'm going to retire next year, so I'll be debt-free, except for the loan that you want to hold over my head. Your city water tastes terrible. It leaves a residue on your clothes and everything you wash. But yet you want to force it upon us. We have good existing wells and septics. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a Chad.
Hello, my name is Chad Blumenshine, and I'm the current resident at 3440 Olson Lane. I would like to start off by saying I echo the sentiments of Richard and Kathy. I also do not believe that it was well communicated, the intentions of this project. I would just like to say a couple things in regards to this. Back in 2015, I purchased this property. One of the main selling points to me was the fact that it did have its own well and that it did have its own septic system. I liked knowing that I could trust my water and trust my septic system because it was relatively new at the time that I purchased the property. So that was really positive. That was one of the positive things going into purchasing the property. When I heard that I was going to be forced to tie into utilities for the city, I was not pleased. I thought it was relatively short notice. Thought the timing was kind of poor considering the current economic state of this country. So needless to say, having to front this new loan that you guys are proposing for the residents of Olson Lane, I feel is unfair and it's unrealistic. I don't have a lot of other opinions on the subject other than I would not like to have to worry about this loan. I believe it will create some unnecessary financial burden to those affected. That's me and everybody else you see here for the Olson Lane representatives. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jesse? Oh, sure. If you could just state your name for them, we'd know.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jones. I live at 3436 Olson Lane. I did a bunch of research on this, and I made a petition that all of my neighbors on Olson Lane signed, and we took it to the county clerk. I took it to the city clerk back in November after we had received the notice of these assessments and how much approximately we were going to owe. There's several issues with this that I stated in the petition. One, if you look back through the minutes of your meetings, a lot of the approvals that you gave were for Olson Avenue. Olson Avenue doesn't exist. We're Olson Lane. So if you go by that wording, they do not apply to us. We shouldn't have to pay them. But the main issue that I have is with, under the state statute 66.0703, which deals with special assessments generally, in paragraph 4, it says that before the exercise of any powers conferred to this section, the governing body shall declare by preliminary resolution its intentions to exercise the powers of the stated municipal purpose. The resolution shall describe generally and contemplated purpose, the limits of the proposed assessments district, the number of installments in which the special assessments may be paid, or that number of the installments will be determined at the hearing required under subsection 7, and directed the proper municipal officer or employee to make a report on the proposal. The resolution may limit the proportion of the cost to be assessed. So, you were supposed to make a resolution before you did anything. When you originally started this, on October 11th, 2021, in the minutes, you discussed the scope of engineering services on Olson Avenue, but no action was taken. On October 25th, 2021, you moved forward with the notice of the special assessments for Olson Avenue utility project, and the motion was carried. On November 22nd, 2021, future items listed Olson Avenue utility project, public hearing, but no discussion was made on it. On December 27th, 2021, you made resolution 2021-34. This was the preliminary resolution for special assessments on Olson Lane, and the motion was carried. That satisfies paragraph 4 in the state statute. In paragraph 5 of the state statute, it says that the report is required by, in subsection 4, shall consist of the preliminary or final plans and specification, estimate of the entire cost of the proposed project or improvement, except for and provided in paragraph D, an estimate as to each parcel of property affected of the assessments of benefits to be levied, the damages to be awarded for property taken or damaged, the net amount of benefits or damages, or the net amount of damages over benefits. A statement that the property against which the assessments are proposed is benefit if the work or improvement constitutes an exercise of police power. If the paragraph applies, the estimates required under paragraph C shall be replaced by a schedule of the proposed assessments. We did not receive the report that showed all of this until the letter was dated October. Oh, here we go. October 5th, 2022. According to the state statute, in paragraph 6, a copy of the report shall be, when completed, shall be filed with the municipal clerk for public inspection. If the property of the state may be subject to assessments, I'm not going to read all this. I have it paraphrased here. On paragraph 6, it states that the copy of the report that was made shall be filed with the clerk for public inspection. That wasn't done before anything was done. In paragraph 7 of the statute, it talks about and says that upon completion and filing a report, notice must be given and a hearing set and a letter sent to the property owners. That was not done until after the project was completed. In paragraph 8, it says, after the hearing, you, the city council, can approve, not approve, or modify the proposal. When the governing body decides to proceed, they shall approve the plan specification and adopt the resolution. The resolution still hasn't been adopted. The clerk published final resolution and sends a second letter to us. We finally got that. It was dated January 6, 2023, after the work was completed. When the final resolution is published and then is authorized and subject to right of appeal under paragraph 12, then the work can be started on the project. This was supposed to have, we were supposed to have a hearing. We were supposed to have received 2 separate letters. We didn't receive any of them until after the work was done. And according to state law, and you even had it written in your resolution, the initial resolution, that this was supposed to happen before any work was done. But it never was. So I don't feel, and none of the property owners there feel that we should have to pay any of these assessments because we didn't want them. I bought the house, 7 years ago. It took me forever to find a house because I did not want city sewer and water. I wanted my own septic and my own well. That is why I bought this house. Now you want me to have to hook up to city sewer and water, and I don't think that's right. They put a new septic in the year before I bought the house, and last year I put a new pressure tank for my well. My well and septic work perfectly fine. I don't think that there should be any assessments to us because the way I'm not a lawyer, I don't know if I'm understanding this right, but the way that I read the state statute, you did not follow the law at all. So I don't think we should have to pay for any of these. I guess that's all. I just don't think that we should have to pay for them. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, Jesse, if you...
Good afternoon. My name is Jesse Urquhart. I'm here representing the house 3446 Olson Lane. My dad Jeff is not able to be here tonight as he passed away on the 12th. The proposed $24,900 fee being assessed to each lot line is an extreme amount of money for being connected for a project that nobody on the street agreed to. In the argument that the connection to city water and sewer would improve the overall value of the house or the lot, it's simply not true. It will not improve the value of the home or the land at all. And something that could have been overlooked in all this is the additional fee that the homeowners will have to assess to actually hook up to the main water lines. I personally have a quote from my dad's house, quoting him at $10,000 to get hooked up to the water and sewer lines, on top of the proposed $25,000 being asked of him or of us now. Which would bring the overall dollar amount to 35 grand for each household to get hooked up to the city water and sewer and pay for the assessed fees assigned to us. The Olson Lane project was roughly about 900 feet, which should be considered a smaller project. Why it felt to assess the fee to the 7 lots on that lane, I do not understand. we only have homes on one side of the road, as the Home Depot and the Comfort Inn are on the other side of the road. Had there been more available lots, more housing, it would have the amount being asked would have been more spread out, as opposed to just trying to put all this money on the 6 or 7 lots. I would like to ask that the burden of this project be either removed from the residents of Olson Lane or significantly reduced after considering that the additional cost to hook up to the water and sewer lines will be paid for by the homeowners themselves out of pocket. The lack of the amount of homes on the road to help disperse the fee being asked of us to pay. And that for a lot of the people who live on Olson Lane, they are living on a fixed income with very little as far as additional spending cash, especially as has been pointed out in this point in our country's history. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment on this special hearing? Not seeing none, so since it's a public hearing, I have to ask it 3 times. Does anyone else have any public comment for this special hearing for Olson Lane? Not seeing. 3rd and final time, does anyone have any public comment for this special hearing for utilities on Olson Lane? Not seeing none, I will close the hearing. Now we go to 7B, which is discuss and/or approve resolution 2023-2. So in your Chromebooks, that would start on page 3. First, I would ask, and I don't know if this is a Randy or Tom with Town and Country, about how we got to where we did with the numbers. So I don't know. More Mark? Okay. So how did we wind up with the roughly 24,000 that was mentioned?
So these costs, all the costs that you see on the assessment form, are derived from actual costs, construction costs. So these numbers weren't put together until the construction was complete. You're seeing actual costs of water main, water services, sanitary sewer, street costs, storm and storm sewer costs. How we generally put these together, we took, well, what was decided on this project is that would be assessed as the water and the sewer costs. So those are separated out. The street costs and the storm sewer costs were segregated from the assessed cost. So all the water main, all the associated water services, all the sanitary sewer and those associated services were split up amongst the 7 parcels. The reasoning being all 7 parcels, regardless of the size of the lot, are being served the same way with one service for each parcel. That cost was then split 50%. So of the sewer and water costs, this is going to be council's decision, but this is what was discussed early on. The city would pick up 50% of the cost of the sewer and water. So the assessed costs that you're seeing are based on actual construction costs and 50% of the actual sewer and water costs as it was installed.
So did Comfort Inn or Home Depot gain any benefit from this project? Or is it only the residential lots?
It was just the residential lots. Home Depot was served off Coon Street, and the hotel and Advanced Auto Parts are served off of Lincoln. So they already had sewer and water.
Does any of the alders have questions for Tom? Well, Tom?
It seems to me that we're saying the lots are the ones that benefited from this, but if you listen to them, it doesn't sound like they benefited at all. And I'm not sure that I'm in agreement with this anymore, because the last thing I want to do is put an extra burden on people, especially like they said in today's economy. So yeah, it's going to take a lot more convincing for me to vote on this.
Anything else for Mark? Mr. Jopek?
This might not be directly for Mark, but I would like to trust and verify those dates on notification, just to make sure.
Yeah, let me answer that. The notifications, there's many policies and procedures on how to do this. What this council did originally was it decided to do the Olson Street project, okay? That was noticed. I mean, that was appeared in public notice. Were notices sent to the individual property owners? I trust that they, based on what they've said to us, that they weren't. I don't have, anyone here to say that they did, so I have no reason to say they weren't. Be that as it may, that's not a prerequisite to doing a public project. We do lots of public projects without letting everyone, getting notice. So you voted as a council to do the public project. Once the project was done, we can't assess it without having a public hearing, and that's what the purpose of tonight was. So we put together the numbers that who was benefited. Under Wisconsin law, if you have a sewer and water line that goes in front of your property, your property is benefited. Under the city of Rhinelander's ordinance, anyone that has a sewer and water line that goes past their property is required within 1 year of that sewer and water line being installed, that they have 1 year they must hook up. That's the law. So once you have that, that required Mark and myself and some others to put this together. So we put this together, we sent it out to the property owners, we've given them notice, we gave the statutory appropriate period of time to get to tonight's meeting. And so the assessment was predicated on the fact that this council voted to do this project. So the project's there. Now, the council, and I'll just answer some of the questions I think are coming. The council can certainly, do other things if they want to, but remember, first of all, that you do have an ordinance, and your ordinance says that if we bring sewer and water past your property, you have to hook up. You change the ordinance, fine, but that's the ordinance right now. Number two, you have the ability to take the assessment and stretch it out over a period of time. I mean, you can do that. That's up to you. We've recommended 25 years in the proposed resolution that's before you at basically the lowest rate we can justifiably offer as a interest rate. You also would have the opportunity to say, well, we're going to change it from 50% to 40% or 25%. You have that right. You can do that. You can do zero. And Mark and I were just talking about a community that does 100%. I mean, it's not unusual to do 100%. What I think you have to recognize is you can't ignore the fact that you have an ordinance that says that you put this in and it has to be assessed to be fair to everybody, the community. You can't change the rules, so to speak. Remember, anything you do is going to be precedent setting too. I mean, so the next time you put a sewer line in, because and oftentimes you put in sewer lines past properties, not because those property owners want it, it's because you're going from point A to point B, and B wants it. Maybe, X, Y, and Z along the way don't want it, but that's, to use a municipal phrase, too bad, so sad. That's the law. And you have to treat people the same. I mean, I just finished a huge project that 85% of the people did not want sewer and water. 15% wanted it. And this was about $29 million of assessments. And most assessments in that case were $30,000 to $40,000 a homeowner. They appealed, they went to court, they lost, because the law is quite clear in the state of Wisconsin that a municipality has the right to do this. Public sewer and public water is a benefit to the community. Septic systems and wells certainly don't really contaminate anyone else other than the people that are using them, but septics can leak, it can affect groundwater. It's not the preferred way. We can't have everybody in the city of Rhinelander having their own septic system. And it's not an argument to say, well, I bought and there was, because if you read the ordinance when you bought, it said you have to hook up to sewer and water. That's what the ordinance says. Now, there's places we don't have sewer and water in the city, so unless we're going to, but if an individual came to us and said, I want sewer and water, we'd have to bring a sewer and water line to them. Some of those could be very, very expensive. But you have to understand that that's the world you're living in, and that's the ordinances you're working with. It can have, effects that are kind of not very comfortable, and I appreciate that. I owned a corner lot once, and I had to pay for it on both sides of my lot, which I thought was horrendous. But it's the law, and you deal with it. You have a question, Eileen?
Can you give me the ordinance number where this
No,
falls?
but I can look it up.
Can you look it up for me, please?
Yeah, I will. But it's definitely, Randy.
I would
maybe-
like these folks to hear it too, so that they can look it up. So if we could get that done
We'll
before
get it done, yeah. I mean, I can't talk, think, and look up on the computer, but I'll get it done.
Austin, can you work on that while we keep? Mr. Jopek?
What's at the end of Olson Lane?
Just please, the public, he's addressing
Yeah.
the mayor. Randy, do you want to answer that question, or Mark, please?
To the south, it is just a dead-end cul-de-sac, and then to the north is Stevens Street.
So I wasn't on the council when this first got proposed. I'm not saying I would know what was going on or I'd have now, hindsight's 2020. But I am curious to what benefit the city saw to extend. I understand the water, the septic leaking into the water source or whatnot, but $24,000, $25,000 a pop to an individual who lives in the city, and then an ordinance requiring them to hook up for an additional $10,000 is basically forcing them to spend $35,000. And at least in the way I'm understanding it is, I'm going to need to see some level of explanation of how this really benefits the city on that level that we would decimate. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at my family. If I was given this bill, even over 25 years, I would be in a spot. And so knowing that Olson Lane ends in a dead end, I'm trying to walk through the logic that we had, and it might have been me, I don't know, to extend that on that road in particular. I understand that A to B, right? If there's somebody in between when you're trying to get from one to another and we're developing one area, but this is on an area where we are not developing anything and it's not going anywhere. And so we did this, and now we're asking them to spend $35,000, whether it's tomorrow or 25 years from now. I can't possibly see how I could force that on them, knowing that I myself would absolutely reject it.
I don't get to vote, so I did vote for it.
Austin, did you find said ordinance yet? Okay, Mr. Barnett?
So what would be the issue of running the water main line? I'm not a construction guy or anything like that, but not forcing them to hook up to the water if we change the ordinance and we ran the water line anyway through there, but they don't have to hook up.
The concept that I looked at with that, Tom, was what we could do is we could say that we'll postpone any requirement to hook up as long as your septic and your well are in good shape. In other words, as long as they're inspected, which they're required to be inspected. I think that's correct, Randy, isn't that right? Yes. As long as they're inspected, they're still working, they're proper, we're not putting anybody at danger. You could postpone the connection to it. You still have the question of assessment, okay? But you could take your assessment and you could assess it, but not charge it until it was hooked up. Because if you had to put in a new septic and you had to put in a new well, you're looking at $35,000 or $30,000. So it's, and if you got city sewer and water, you don't have to worry about the electricity stopping and things like that too.
Right, but for those situations, that's not really ours to worry about. That's the homeowner's thing to worry about if they lose power and their septic doesn't work. As long as everything's up to code and, you know, acceptable by city ordinance, I would be in favor of not making them hook up. I would be in favor of changing the ordinance so that we're not forcing that kind of burden on people that are obviously on fixed incomes. And like I said, with today's economy, I'd probably pass out if I got that bill.
Ms. Daniel?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if I asked for a show of hands of everybody who read every city ordinance before they bought a house within the city, there wouldn't be a single hand that went up. I'm reminded of a popular book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they're like, well, those plans have been down at, you know, in the intergalactic city hall for the last 5 years. How come you didn't go down and take a look at it? The fact that, and I'm going to trust these citizens here, that when they say they did not get a notice before construction started, even that the construction was going to start, that they did not get notice of this special assessment, that there would be an assessment given to them for this, and even then, how do you account for that amount of money? I live in the city, again, just like Tom said. If I got that, I'd be sitting over here with them too, going, I bought this house because I got a well, and I have septic. And, you know, I have to agree with whoever said the water here tastes terrible. I just have to say, it does. I don't drink it, I buy bottled water. Forcing someone to hook into city water on their own private property is BS in my mind. So I want to read the ordinance. I want to change the ordinance, because that is absolutely bonkers to me.
Mr. Holt?
Thank you. First, I have to correct Eileen. It was actually posted on the bulletin board at Proxima Centauri. So,
sorry.
yeah, not Galactic Sea Hell.
Sorry.
But aside from the ordinance, the option to waive the requirement to hook up or postpone the requirement to hook up and then postpone the assessment until a hookup is made, is that something that requires an ordinance change, or is that a choice that the council can make in this case to delay those fees?
Let me answer this with David. I think because as a council, you're hearing all of this stuff for the first time tonight. What I think would be appropriate, because we already know what the money is, it's already there. So nothing's going to change, okay? Mm-hmm. And we're not going to start, by the way, you don't get assessments until a year from now. So that's not going to change. So we got plenty of time. Why don't we, as meaning the administration and maybe the new city administrator, why don't we put all this information that you've requested together in a form of a memo that would go out to you as the councilman? And if you want the Olson people that are here tonight, we'll send it out to them too, so that you have a better understanding of the whys and the wherefores and the statutes. And then I'll try to outline for you what your permissible things that you could do as far as changing ordinances or just simply making a resolution to, you know, whatever is necessary. I don't want to knee-jerk that. I mean, somewhere along the line, a knee-jerk didn't get something done that should have been done, so I don't want to do that, if you don't mind. I mean, I'm being polite and asking you to postpone this and let us get our research to you.
That's fine with me.
Mr. Anderson?
Well, I'm fine with the idea of postponing it. I do have a few things to say. I like the city water. The last time I had a house with a well, the well went out as I was trying to sell it. and I would gladly have spent the money to hook up to a public water supply if that had been available, but it wasn't. I do think this matter of notices and things like that, yes, the council, I think, was aware that we were intending to do this by assessment. I do not believe we were made aware of the requirement that they hook in right away within a year. I'm sure there's some logic to that, but nothing was given to us about that, and I'm assuming nothing was told to the residents about that. This sounds tonight like a hearing that we should have had a year and a half ago, or sometime during the last year and a half, to hear from the people who live there. And we haven't had the benefit of that, and that's disturbing to me too. It seems like there's a lot of ways, whether we meet the legal technicalities, there are a lot of ways in which this was not done right, the process. But if we can consider some other possibilities, just one I just thought of was if we're going to say you don't have to hook up immediately, I don't think we can say you don't have to pay the assessment, but could we structure the payment of the assessment so that they don't have to pay as much until they hook up? That would be a question to look into.
So the clerk informed me what we believe the ordinance would be 3-07-16, which is sewer use and sewer service charge. It is pretty lengthy and there's a lot of points, so I'll let people look it up at their own time. The couple questions I do have for the attorney, just for knowledge. So hypothetically, if this was the middle of summer and one of these households' septic failed, by county or state law or city law, do they have to hook up at that time, or can they replace with a new septic?
No, they'd have to hook up to the city sewer.
Because it's available.
Because it's available, yeah.
Is the same go for the well?
Yes.
So
you're not allowed to have private wells in a city, and I could go on and on and on and tell you why health departments don't like that. But it's, I mean, again, I would prefer putting this all in a well-reasoned memorandum rather than just snapping answers back and forth. But I'll answer your
True,
questions.
but the people are here tonight, so
they'll
we
get a
could
copy
talk
of
about
it,
it tonight. If their well were to go out tomorrow, would they have to hook up? Because it's winter.
Okay, so if the well went out tomorrow, or the well went bad, or whatever could happen. I mean, they're sitting behind the trailer park, and the trailer park has some issues that we hope never get into their wells. But if they did, we would have an obligation as a city to provide them water, and we'd have to figure out some way to tap into our water system to provide them water, just as we're running into that problem with the PFAS situation. That's our responsibility as a municipality. So the answer to your question is yes, we'd have to provide the water. I don't know how we do it, but maybe we'd have to hire an engineer to drill. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. But the answer from a legal point of view is yes, you have to provide them water if they live in the city limits.
And this is just kind of for public knowledge. I mean, myself, this happened before, well, this process was started before I got elected, as well as Mr. Joe Peck and Ms. Felton. What's past procedures, and this might even be before your time, too?
This is before my time, too.
So,
I mean, candidly, and if somebody is, I said earlier tonight, if somebody's going to be thrown under the bus, it'll probably be me, and that's okay. We had too many moving parts with staff over the last 2 or 3 years, and I think this is one of those things that could have been done better. I don't disagree, but we have the situation we have, and we have to make the best of it, so let's do it. I mean, that's all I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Mayor.
And then my last question would be, and I don't know if you know the true answer to this, the cost for someone hooking up their lateral, there was reference to about $10,000. My understanding, there are some DNR grants available to cover said cost.
Well,
would that apply
yeah,
in this case?
yes and no. So there's the DNR money, definitely be DNR grant money if your well was failing. I mean, no question about that. But if your well is, and they may even do that too, but I don't know if your well's still working, it's good shape, that the DNR would provide grant money for that purpose. But I know they would if the well was failing.
So in theory, if someone had a well on this road today that was failing, there would be the option to apply for grant money through the DNR to help cover the cost to hook up if said owner chooses. But due to us having the supply at the street, they are forced to hook up versus replacing current well or current septic. Correct? Just for everyone knows?
Yes, if they want water from the city, which they have the right to ask for, we would have to make it available to them and they would have to hook up to it. I mean, technically, although they're going to run into problems with the health department, they could just bring in bottled water and live on bottled water if they wanted to. But you're going to run into a county health department issue at that point. I mean, I know this sounds like a melodrama, but it's you all need to learn this because people need to know this. I mean, again, I didn't vote to put in this extension. I quite frankly can't remember why we decided to put it in, but that's water over the dam, it's in. But the bottom line is, these are discussions you all as councilmen should have before you do any of your sewer and water projects. You're starting another sewer and water project, you know, with the United Street, and you got to think about all the ramifications of what you do. And maybe that was shame on the administration, and I was part of that administration maybe, so I'll take part. That's why I said I'll take the blame. It's the problem with being the oldest administrative person here in the room anymore. And I've only been here, what, 2.5, 3 years, so. But I don't know if that answers your question or not, Mr. Mayor.
True. And before we move on or take any other questions, I don't know the answer to this question in general, but who should pay for the service? Should the water tax base as a whole, or should the people being benefited? And I don't know the answer to that. You know, is it right to charge someone on Eastern Street or on Baird Street for this when they never will see a benefit? And I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I think $25,000 is a huge amount for someone, but I don't know if other taxpayers should split the burden as well. Mr. Jopek?
You know, obviously I don't have the answers on that one either, and I'm not for hoisting or foisting anything on taxpayers, but at the same time, I'm hearing not a whole lot of I hear a lot of the city not doing necessarily what it probably should have done.
No, don't misunderstand me. The city did everything it was supposed to do. It just didn't get communicated.
Right, but let me finish.
Yep.
While I understand that we did what we were supposed to do, resolution, whatever, and that a note is not a prerequisite, although I would advocate for it being put in there because I think constituents who are being forced to connect to sewer in the city, I think that's a big move, and I think that should be a prerequisite that we do notify them if it isn't already. But on top of that, I just asked earlier, do we know why we did it in the first place? And I didn't get anything.
No,
and you can go back and look. That's fine. Just let me finish. You can go back and look, and that's fine. And I'd love to hear it. I'm okay with that. But I have a really hard time if, like, it's not like they asked for it and then we did it, and then now they're going back on us. It's we decided to do it. The city decided to do it. The representatives of the city decided to do it. And like, I have a hard time. I know that's not fun to say somebody on Eastern pays it. I live on Baird, so like I would end up paying it. But at the same time, if I looked at it, there's no way I can cut this where they asked for this. In fact, most of them said, that they bought the property they had because it had a different well, whatever. And I understand city ordinance. I get all that. All right. But that's what they said. That's where we're at. Right. And now to assess this to them and then, worry about the everyday taxpayer, of which I am one. Like, I get it. It's a crap sandwich. Like, it sucks. But also, as far as I'm concerned, unless I see something that says this is why we did it, this was the logic behind it, this was the reasoning behind it, and it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense, I can't be in favor of just dropping that on those seven lots and just saying, all right, have a good day. We did our job.
Ms. Daniel?
I don't know if I could come up with something as eloquent as crap sandwich, but when you're talking about benefits, right? If you're saying, well, we have to do this because they have septic systems, and if the septic system backs up, it affects the city as a whole, then it apparently does benefit the entire city if that is in there. Am I reading that wrong? Or is that correct? Right? So you're saying they can't have septic because if their septic backs up or if their septic fails, it's going to affect the water table in the entire city. So if you're going to say that, then you have to be able to also say, well, then everybody in the city benefits, not just the people on Olson Lane.
Mr. Barnett?
I'd like to piggyback on what Mr. Jopek was saying. We do make the decisions as far as this stuff goes, but we can only make an educated decision on what to do with the amount of information we're being given by administration. Previous administrator was famous for that, feeding us what he wanted us to know so that we passed an ordinance in the way that he wanted it to go. That happened several times. I'm not afraid to say it. We can only make decisions if we're told everything for those decisions to be 100% effective. If we're only fed half the story, we're making decisions on half the story. So if we're going to be held accountable for making decisions, then I would assume that our next administrator will absolutely make sure that we know everything, because no one told us that it was going to be on their backs. Nobody.
Any other, Ms. Mikulowski?
I would just like to make a motion to have administration make that memo as per what the city attorney recommended.
By Mr. Kelly. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Jopek?
I guess I just want to make sure, I don't know if it's something that the city can do or what, but I would like verification that those folks on those 7 lots do get all the same communications to make sure that whatever failure in communication there was previous is fixed, and that we make sure that we try and resolve this as best as we can and in as good a faith as possible.
I would suggest you amend said motion then.
Joe Peck, move to amend approved motion. Is that okay? Can I start that way? Nope.
To amend said motion to include those lots.
To include notification of 7 lots on Olson Lane of any and all communications regarding the project.
Second?
By Mr. Holt. Okay, we just do a voice vote on the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Amendment passes. Going back to the original motion, any other discussion? Not seeing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to 8, unfinished business. We are not applicable at this time. Moving on to 9, which is 9A, discuss and approve splash pad skate park location. I refer to Randy with Public Works.
Switching gears. A number of months ago, I was tasked with starting the preliminary work, the pre-construction work for a splash pad and a skate park. Started on this task looking for the most feasible places, areas where their constructability would benefit Rhinelander the most. I went through the preliminary packet that the steering committee did with over it, marking down what was critical to them. And so now, since then, I've met with the Over It group 3 different times. I've talked many times with Melinda Childs, a couple times with Whit Ciesco, a consultant they use in this area. I spent a lot of time looking at how Rhinelander is going to benefit the most on where we put this. I have some renderings up here. These are not official by any means. These are just to give you an idea of what concept we're looking at for a splash pad. If you can go to the next tile. These are fairly modest, and they're going to be superficial mainly, meaning we're not excavating too much for them. And then the next 2 tiles are just ideas for skate parks. We're looking around 5,000 square feet, and these are just some ideas again. The step we're going to take next is once we solidify an area we want to build these, then I will send these out for bids and qualifications from different engineering firms. And when they know where we want to put this, then we can really get the work going. If you can go to the next tile then. Now I need the criteria. There we go. So here's my criteria I said about to use. What was the most constructible? Meaning, is there going to have to be a lot of earthwork done? Are we going to have to remove trees? Are we going to have to remove existing structures? What is the price? The cheapest price for Rhinelander per lineal foot for construction. If this is in a remote area, we're going to have to deliver utilities to this area. That's expensive. Anything underground, the price is compounded. Then I started going with some of the concerns or desires for over it. They were looking for something that's centrally located in town. They're looking for a community connection, a safe space, bathrooms, and what was that 6th one there? 7th. Oh, lights and a Northwoods theme. So if you can go to the next tile then, Tara, thank you. This map, you see all the lines on there, and this is the reason I wanted this posted, is you're going to see that all those lines represent existing utilities, such as water, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and electricity and lighting. Because all these utilities are concentrated very close by to Pioneer Park, this became logistically my primary focus. This is an area that was going to save Rhinelander the most money. This is an area that was right center of the town. And this is an area where constructability is the most feasible. I did not focus on this area right away. I started looking at other spots. And after a few weeks of doing this, I was asked myself why. And then it dawned on me, a little bit to my shame. I was thinking, we do not want to put a skate park here. This is one of the nicest parks we have. So when I overcame that, I did start focusing more on Pioneer Park. This is the first choice. I've talked with the Over It kids a good deal about this. They have, some of them are very much behind it, others are still accepting of it and have another spot that is my second option I'll bring up in a second. But the reason I think Pioneer Park, the reason I'm presenting it to you as my recommendation for our first choice is because it is centrally located. It does have a Northwoods theme. There's bathrooms there. It's well lit. It's well commuted. There's lots of foot and traffic, people traffic around there. Another thing is this area tells the kids, especially in Over It, and tells the community that we are inclusive. We want you as part of our community. You're going to be involved with the pickleball group, the older generation. You're going to be involved with the young kids in the park, and you are part of us. The next tile, please, Carol. So my second option that I'm presenting to you is, I'll go to the next one, I'm sorry. We'll come back to that one in a second, is Hodag Park. I would propose, if Pioneer is just not acceptable to you, that we look at where that existing tennis court is in Hodag. Now, this would require that we split up the construction. It would probably become two different projects, the splash pad and the skate park. If we are going to, the most successful route I believe we can take, if both are going to be built, is to combine them together. If most of the momentum, most of the excitement is behind a splash pad, I very much want to keep these two projects together so we also maintain momentum for the skate park. The third option then, the next tile, is West Side Park. This is the least feasible to me. It meets the least amount of criteria. The utilities are a good distance away. It is not central to the town, and I had very little support from the Overett group. I want to just add too, Tara, if you can go back 2 tiles, please. These are just potential ideas of where I think we could put things. I did a good deal of research on the ball diamond there. This is where I got a number of complaints about proposing this area. I talked to the parks director for, not the parks director, the athletic director for the high school, and I talked to the Little League and softball director. Very cooperative people. They care about Rhinelander a lot. There are no commitments that they need or have with this park. The Little League does, the girls softball league did practice here at times between here and West Side. They are, their director, Ben Gauthier, I believe, very much understands our predicament though, where we have about 7 ball diamonds in Rhinelander, we have no skate parks. He thinks that West Side could be very suitable for them. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but this is paraphrasing our conversation. Austin and I researched contracts. There's no open contracts at all. No one has a commitment with the ball diamond here. I talked with my parks foreman. Some people do use this park unofficially. It can be a nice area, but it gets very little use. It's just the honest fact of it. There is nostalgia there, but I think if Rhinelander is looking for the most value, if you want to see in the future more people using that space, then it's going to be with a skate park and a splash pad. There are still many ball diamonds in town. Then I believe that's how I present it to you. I want to move ahead with Pioneer Park. Some of the kids here with Overett who have enjoyed their company a great deal. This has been a rewarding part of my job. Getting to speak with them, very smart, very congenial. Some of the kids are more in favor of Hodag, but they'll support Pioneer. But this is my primary choice that I present to you. I hope we can make a decision here. So I'm going to move on with the next step then. If we can solidify an area, then tomorrow I'll start the process of pre-construction.
Mr. Holt?
Yeah, I have a question for you. If memory serves, during an earlier conversation about the features of a skate park that really made sense and made it feasible, and somebody can correct me if my memory's wrong, we settled on really not having a skate park less than 12,000 square feet. And I'm curious if that particular challenge could be addressed in Pioneer Park, especially if we are willing to abandon the ball diamond there. That is my question. One thing I wanted to add though, also your comment about making the skate park in a central location to send a message that this is inclusive, I absolutely appreciate that, and I think that was a fantastic statement and sentiment. I think that it's important to keep in the spirit. So for the question of the size of it.
Upgrading it from 5,000 to 12,000.
Yes.
I can build it as big as you want if you give me enough money. That's what
Okay,
it's.
so this isn't a space issue.
Yes. No, I don't think, there's another reason why Pioneer is such a good option in my mind. I want to back up just a little though. I have been talking with Mr. Barnett about the fair and the potential conflict there. I cannot get into that now, but I believe we have a very viable solution for this. In 2023, the fair will still be at Pioneer. We're going to talk about, I think though, we have a very strong option, which I would probably present to you in due course, for 2024 or maybe 2025, going forward into the future for the fair. But if we use that ball diamond, I believe, yeah, we'll have plenty of square footage. We'll have a nice lot, between the infield and the outfield, a very large footprint. So.
Ms. Daniel, I don't know if you still have a question.
My question was mostly about the size as well. Again, I want to make sure that whatever skate park we end up with, it's something that the kids are happy with, that future generations really want to use, that it doesn't go into disuse or neglect because it's garbage, right? So we want to make sure that we've got the space, the features, everything that's going to keep the kids coming back generation after generation. So that's, 5,000 square feet is just, seems very small to me. And I know we talked about something much bigger. And again, I'm with Mr. Holt. If nobody's using that ball diamond, I mean, it seems then it's right out there in the, right along Oneida Street,
Yes.
right
Yes.
where Kemp comes in.
Yes.
That's when people come right into town. They're going to see it. They're going to see the kids out there using it, taking pride in it. So that, as long as it's built well and the kids are happy with it, then I support it.
I agree. I believe, having visited a nearby town recently, looking at the dilapidated state of their skate park, there's no way I would want to have my name attached to that. I would want to build something that we can be proud of, that we are going to invest in, that is going to be an architectural point of pride.
So in order to make sure that happens, we're going to call it the Randy
no, ma'am.
the
No, ma'am.
skate park, so that Randy will continue to maintain it, and we'll put your picture up there and everything. It'll be great.
Yes. Well, I do not endorse that part of it, but.
Ms. Michalowski.
I've also worked with the Overett Group as part of the One Nation, One Project team. And from the beginning, although they did the feasibility study, I thought all of the areas that they did select were rather small for what I think a skate park should be. And I did encourage them continually to, shoot for the stars, like big dream, like figure out what it is exactly that you want. And in thinking about that, where you're proposing to have this skate park, do you feel like it's an area that if certain apparatuses or something aren't initially installed during the initial construction of this, is it possible that in the future more apparatuses could be built in this area? Should money become available and such. So can you give me your thoughts on what the expansion of the skate park might look like?
Tara, could you jump 2 more tiles back, please, to number 7, I think, or 6 or 7? Well, Carrie, I would shoot for not starting construction until we had sufficient funds that we feel we can build a very good product with. But your question is very poignant. We can, if we believe it's worth our while that we need to get started now just to keep the ball going, we could build it, we could design it with expansion in mind. that is certainly an option. Right now, because we have momentum, I have some good starting money for this. I want to really hit hard for looking for alternative funding as well, and try and generate a good chunk of funding right off the bat. But yes, we certainly could design this with expansion in mind. We certainly have the real estate for it. This gray area there is what I'm proposing for the skate park. And then the blue area is where I'm thinking, but this can all change. The blue area, though, is where I'm thinking perhaps a splash pad, and then we move the playground area to that green block. But these are all, we spent a good deal of time over it, and I just putting our pins up on my map of where we could move this or that. If I have an area to work on, then we can make it work. So.
Ms. Michalowski?
Then I'd like to make a motion to have Randy start with the next step moving forward on this project at Pioneer Park.
Second by Kelly. Any discussion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Thomas Barnett.
Abstain.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Karen Michalowski.
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Motion passes to the next step. Moving on to 9B, discuss and approve common council meeting minutes from January 9th.
Holt, I'll make a motion to approve the common council meeting minutes from January 9th, 2023.
Barnett, second.
Any discussion? Not seeing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Ms. Daniel, minutes approved. Moving on to C1, which would be the room tax committee, which would end January of 2025. So that was a typo with writing the agenda, and it's for Ben Burrell for the at-large committee member of hospitality. Mr. Barnett?
While do we need to make a motion before we discuss this?
It's
Having a motion to approve, yes, or to deny.
Okay. So I gotta make that motion before we discuss?
Well, but are you making a motion on one person or two people?
One.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just on Ben, whatever his name was?
Burrell.
Okay, so somebody should make that motion. You can make it in the positive even if you're gonna vote against it, so that's.
All right, I make a motion to accept Ben Brunel, the appointment, and deny Zach Ruwink's appointment.
Okay, it's two separate motions. Let's just do one at a time. Ben first, then.
Yes, I make a motion to accept Ben Brunel as an appointment.
Holt, I will second the motion to accept Ben Brunel as the at-large member with a hospitality emphasis.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion? Not seeing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. Moving on to C-2, which would be Zach for the lodging industry representative.
Barnett, I make a motion to deny Zach Ruwink for the lodging committee.
Jopek, second.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Anderson?
I know some people are unhappy with Zach's performance for the city. I personally saw some lacks here and there, but I was mostly okay with what he did. But this is something different. He has indicated his intention to stay connected with the city. We are been at least aware that he's doing some Airbnb stuff with his house, so he relates to the lodging industry. I don't see that he's an inappropriate person to appoint.
I'll just start at the beginning, Mr. Barnett.
I yield my time to David Holt. I think he probably might
Mr.
have something
Holt?
more eloquent to say.
Thank you. In response there to the comment made by my colleague to my left, I want to point out that my views on this particular issue have absolutely zero amount to do with Zach Verwing's performance as city administrator. I understand that this is a completely different issue. I have other concerns with this that actually have very little to do with Zach himself. So I want to set the tone to make sure that this discussion has the right context, that this is not some kind of a vendetta against Zach or punitive action all for his performance as city administrator, which I personally overall was satisfied with, although nobody is perfect. So I will start off with that. I do have other concerns in this area. Largely, my views are reflecting the position of other members of the area business community with regard to the idea that Zach represents a lodging industry representative. He only received approval for renting out his house a few months ago. Does that really constitute being a lodging industry representative? I think that's a semantic and subjective position to take. People could agree or disagree with it. But for me, with regard to what the room tax committee does, and I've been on it for a number of years, I hope to continue on it, is make decisions about the marketing strategy for advertising for the hospitality industry businesses of this area. So with that in mind, I do think that there were a number of other people very interested who are connected in terms of running businesses. Renting one's own house out is not equivalent, I think, to running a business in the hospitality industry. So that's mainly my concern. I have other concerns, but that's the statement I'll make now.
Mr. Jopek?
I'll clarify as well that I have very limited experience with Zach, as I just came on in the beginning of this year, and so my opposition to this in no way, shape, or form applies to him, his former performance, or anything on those lines. A lot of my concerns sit where Mr. Holt sits, on the lodging industry representative, and a major question I have is what is the process for choosing this appointment? And if there's any sort of, I don't know, application or vetting process or filtering process, who were some other candidates, and how in a city where we're building 2 new hotels, and where we're looking to expand and we're looking to do all these things, I'm kind of shocked, and looking at this the other day, I was kind of shocked to see his name on there, not because I have a problem with him, but because it's an Airbnb. It's one, and I could, do that with my house, and you could call me a lodging industry representative. I won't, but and so I'd like to. I'm curious. There's got to be more people in this town, especially with people, entrepreneurs, that qualify to sit there and sit on this council. And so I'm genuinely concerned about how appointments are carried out with this, because I was actually kind of flabbergasted.
So Steve, if you would answer what qualifies someone to have this position?
I would say being involved. Oh, me. Sorry,
Steve,
my bad.
Yeah,
my
sorry.
bad.
Sorry, too many Steves.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, 2 things you have to remember. 1, it's the mayor's appointment. And 2, is you're looking for someone, it really doesn't spell it out, but the room tax, there's 2 dimensions to the room tax. The one dimension to the room tax is where it's coming from, and it's coming from the hospitality industry. And the second aspect of the room tax is what it's used for, and it's used for tourism promotion is really what it's supposed to be used for. It's try to promote more people to use more rooms, and then there's a small portion of it that's set aside for administration. But as far as the criterion of the persons, there's a list of the people in each of the roles, and the role that we're talking about is someone involved in the hospitality industry. That's the only criteria, and that the mayor gets to choose, subject to your approval.
So with that, I had 5 candidates interested. 2 are with hotels that are not built, and I don't think it's appropriate to appoint people who have not funded said tax body yet. You know, maybe in the future that would change, but until they actually build and are operating a hotel, I don't think they qualify. One actually was, well, Zach is one, of course. Ben Burrell is another, who owns an Airbnb in town. And the third is someone who's been on the committee for 6 years. And I'm very supportive of bringing in fresh blood, new ideas, versus just reappointing the same old people time and time again. And I know some of you disapprove of that, but this is the decision I made. You could vote it up or down or table it, but Mr. Jopek.
So to clarify, Ben Brunel and Zach Ruink both owned Airbnbs.
No.
Correct.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, the Hodeg.
And so we'd have 2 representatives of the Airbnb. What has the Airbnb in the last 3 months contributed to the tax base?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Calling ahead of time to let me know for such information would help as well.
Do that
too.
for the hotel for me as well.
Sure.
As a point of information, Lauren Sackett did provide percentages, and she said 97.5% come from hotels in
Very
the
true.
city of Rhinelander.
Mr. Anderson.
I agree with a lot of what Mr. Jopek said, because I feel it's hard to evaluate these appointments in a vacuum. Both, we need what you just gave, your reasoning for why you appoint particular people, and it would be helpful to know who else is on the committee so we can evaluate whether it's balanced in some way. I just feel like we need more information on these appointments in general, and it's good to bring that up at this time.
Ms. Daniel.
If you're looking for fresh blood and for fresh ideas, it would make sense to me to work with the people who are coming in with the new hotels, because possibly they have some insight in what's worked in other areas, other communities, rather than just the same people who've been here forever. And I just want to also echo, I have no personal issues with Zach Ruink. However, I don't feel that he is the correct candidate for that position.
Mr. Barnett.
I'm going to make it clear that my initial denial of Zach, again, I echo the older people. It's not personal. It's not business or anything like that. This is strictly, for me anyway, an appointment of someone who used to live in the city, now doesn't, although he owns a home here. He doesn't reside there most of the time, as far as I have been aware of. He's renting out his house on a part-time basis. To me, even though he's got the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, doesn't qualify him to be a representative of the lodging business group. That's just my personal opinion. To answer the comments about Ben Brunel, his appointment is an at-large member with an emphasis on hospitality. Ben Brunel is probably the only person qualified, in my book, in the city to represent Rhinelander, as he goes to different states to promote Rhinelander on a regular basis. So if anybody should be on this committee, it should be him. He's proven himself to be a huge supporter of Rhinelander tourism and actually bringing people in. A lot of people come here never hearing about the HODAG until he went out of state to a bunch of different conventions and stuff and promoted the HODAG. I don't see anybody else on this committee that does that. So that I have no issues with appointing Ben Brunel. But I do not see any benefits that Zach could bring, as far as the lodging industry being a representative of that. Maybe some connections in Madison, but honestly, I don't want to hitch my horse to a maybe. So that's my reasoning for denying Zach. I think there should be someone who actually lives here full-time that has the city's best interest in mind. And I can't believe that there's nobody else out there that can do that. That blows my mind.
Ms. Michalowski?
Yes, I think the thing that I'm most curious about is when an appointment is due to be made, what criteria is made, or advertising, or how does the public even know to apply to, or request to apply to be a candidate, to be appointed? So, I mean, if they don't, like, I think it was on Facebook, but if you're not on Facebook, how else does the public know how or when appointments are, to be made, and what the process is to apply for that?
Are you talking in general or just this committee?
In general, and then obviously related to this committee as well.
So in general, it's based on mayor's discretion currently. So a lot of it is people, just people sitting in this room that would like to be on committees, that they come and approach me saying their interests, and it gets added to the log. Depending on the candidate pool, we do more promoting, looking for people, as well as just how many positions are needed. The room tax committee, based on an ordinance change 6 months ago, was kind of a revamp by this board. So there was a lot of open positions. Minus the one in question with Zach here tonight, you still have the city administrator, or who they designee is the only other open position. So once these two are filled, by whoever fills them, the committee would be full and whole for moving forward in the next, looks like 2 years, based on their term. For this one in particular, we did some Facebook, promoting. We also talked about it at one of our room tax committee hearing meetings. I believe the clerk, did we shoot a media blast to all the media on this? So, press release? True. So it sounds like we did do a press release. I can't verify the day at this point. So it's kind of based on who's interested. Of course, committee positions that have no interest, we're going to promote more because, we want candidates to fill versus an empty position. Ones that have people who apply, we tend to pick the best candidate out of who's applying. Yep.
So just a question, maybe more towards Steve, is in other communities, is there a procedure based on this? Because it doesn't seem like we have one, meaning it just seems kind of willy-nilly, and it's not like no concrete procedure as, it needs to be published in these areas this certain amount of days in advance, or what the application process would be. Just curious what other communities might do regarding this.
Yeah, probably 30% of the communities have just, the mayor is king, he can do whatever he wants, which is what this one really is. Other communities have a committee on committees. It's a funny name, but it's a committee on committees, and that's the committee you go to because you put your name in saying, I'd like to be on a committee. I'd like to be on the tourism committee. I'd like to be on the water committee. So there's a committee that goes through all the names, and then they recommend the names to the mayor, and then the mayor chooses that. That's another, especially in your larger cities, in your Milwaukee's, Madison's. And then I've seen mayors adapt their own methodology of public announcements, but other than the committee on committees and just saying the mayor gets to appoint, I've really never seen a procedure for most committees, like you must get your applications by such a date and they will be reviewed by such a, you'd be more likely to do that if it wasn't a mayoral appointment, if it was a council appointment. But this is a mayoral appointment. So theoretically, the voters said, we want this guy to make these appointments. But the approval by you all is the check and the balance. In other words, you say like you are tonight, we don't think that this one person is qualified, then go find somebody else. So you say to the mayor, go find somebody else. Well, and then of course the public's all hearing that, and so he'll get phone calls, I'm sure, and you'll get phone calls, I'm sure, and then you can exchange, but not a formal procedure.
Mr. Jopek?
When we talked about the committee, was that in the summer, late summer, like kind of starting this up, one of the things that we had talked about was making sure on this committee were members of like some of the recreational activities in the community. And so I guess I'm curious if there was any targeting of trying to, get in contact with, I know our Little League program is huge. The Rhinelander Ice Arena is huge, and they're constantly having events, and that's going to be something that populates. I mean, my son has a tournament at the beginning of February that has like 32 teams coming from all over the state. And so I guess, have we done any targeted, recruiting? Because I understand it's an interest-based thing, right? If there's nobody there, it makes it more difficult. But have we reached out and said, hey, we think you're a very valuable member to our tourism base, and we really want you on the committee? Have we done anything like that, or is that something that we can pursue to get hopefully generate interest among some of our community leaders, especially in the recreational areas?
Yes, but I mean, the only position open at this point would be lodging industry, so it would have to be someone paying into the room tax, either as an owner, manager, or employee. So for what's left, it would be marketing to that group. Mr. Holt?
Yes, I wanted to reiterate a point that our city attorney made as far as the council in its approval or denial of a mayoral appointment is a check, right? We have divided government, we have checks and balances for a reason. In my nearly 5 years on council, I believe that this is the second time the council has had a concern about a mayoral appointment. And that's neither a good nor bad thing. It's simply a point of fact. My concerns are largely coming from the fact that every single member of the hospitality community that's reached out to me is not happy with this and is concerned about the reasoning and agenda behind trying to appoint somebody who's not currently living in Rhinelander as well. And that's a broader concern about simply having to question the motives and agendas that aren't explicitly communicated, I think. And I sense that from that committee. I definitely sensed that during the last meeting. It took an hour to get that contract approved. And so, and I don't understand. I simply don't understand what the agitational position towards that community when they are people dedicated to promoting Rhinelander and promoting the area. I'm glad that the city attorney pointed that out as the council as a check on the need sometimes to reconsider one's approach, the optics of one's approach, and what it means and how it impacts an industry vital to the Northwoods. Thanks.
Okay.
Is that an official statement, Tom? Do you want to use your mic, Tom? Tom would like to call the question.
Okay. With that, clerk, can you repeat what's the motion on the floor?
The current motion is motion by Barnett to deny Zach Vruwink appointment to the Room Tax Committee, term ending January of 2025, with a Joe Peck second.
Okay, would you like to call the roll call?
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
David Holt,
Nay. Oh, I'm sorry. Aye. It's a negative. I'm sorry. Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Stephen Joe Peck,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Okay, motion passes to deny Zach. Clerk, please do another press release looking for candidates for this category. Moving on to D, which is discuss summer concert series with NRG Media. I don't know if Shane or Sarah or both. So what have you two been cooking up? Well, if you want to hit the mic.
Sorry. My name's Sarah Morris, for anyone who doesn't know me. And with me today is my general manager, Shane Sparks. And we're from NRG Media. So firstly, let me thank you guys for having us here today to discuss our plans to use the newly constructed Hodag Park Amphitheater. Initially, I would like to note that our current plans are preliminary and subject to change based on NRG Media company policy and third-party recommendations. But because of the industry that we work in and our appreciation for music, our main goal is to share a family-friendly experience with the community in the form of free live music on a regular basis. So that's what we're planning on doing. So beginning May 30th and continuing in a series every Tuesday, or not every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. through September 5th, we plan to organize 8 total concerts at the Hodag Park Bandshell. So NRG Media will promote the series and invite the public to bring a blanket or chair and enjoy free live entertainment. We also want to invite local food and or beer vendors with the proper licenses to participate in the series to sell to attendees. Some benefits that the Hodag Park concert series will bring to the city is appealing to visitors looking to relocate to Rhinelander, increase foot traffic and use of Hodag Park, visible awareness of the water ski show and baseball games to promote youth athletics, potential business for city restaurants from concert attendees being more likely to get dinner or drinks before and after concerts, partial fulfillment of the 2022 Rhinelander Outdoor Recreation Plan Survey for respondents requesting more music, festivals, and city sponsors and local bands will be announced on 6 major radio stations. So our next steps include submitting amplified music permit, park shelter reservation agreement, special event permit with event parameters and operation plans in the banner application. And upon approval, we'll move to secure artists. And I can go into specific detail if you guys want, or turn it over to Shane. If you had anything else to add?
You've done a great job, Sarah.
All right. So, and open it up to further discussion or any questions that you guys have.
So the question I would have is, what are you asking from the city then?
I guess we're going to be asking for, we are going to submit for permits and approval on that. We've got to go through our council to make sure that we're good from an insurance standpoint, things along that line, but we will be supplying permits to the city for that, and see if that will be possible for us to move forward on.
Yeah, and mostly today we're just here in front of you to give you just an initial heads up of what we're planning on doing, and to see if you had any questions, feedback.
Mr. Anderson?
Just one question. The community band has had concerts about 6 or summer each year. Is there any coordination with that group?
No. No, and we would be looking for, I've never attended those concerts, but it was more instrumental, right? Yeah, and this would be more local bands like Scott Kirby, for an example.
I think the way I would phrase it is we'd be open to a variety of music and bands. I think if you look at the event when the band shelter was opened, that was a wonderful night for Rhinelander, from top to bottom. I don't know how you couldn't walk around Hodag Park that night and not be proud of what our city had created and to see that many people turn out that day. The opportunity to recreate that opportunity for our city members, people also come from out of town and be a part of that as well and see what is obviously, we keep talking about one of our most, it's one of our proudest spots in the community, and I think we want to use it as much as possible, and we believe this is one more way that we can do so.
Mr. Barnett?
I think that this is probably the most appropriate use of that stage and the park. We have a interested party that doesn't belong to is not, related to the city whatsoever, wanting to utilize that amphitheater to put on a musical entertainment. I think that it's going to be a huge success. I know people have been wanting us to be, getting people on there and stuff. So I want to thank you guys for bringing this series to the city. And if everything works out, I absolutely look forward to seeing what you guys do with your concert series.
Ms. Michalowski?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off that and just thank you guys for bringing this idea to us. I think this is an excellent opportunity for this amphitheater to be used, and I really think that this also too will promote multi-generational gatherings, which of course I'm all about. So thank you.
So then 2 questions I have for council just to see what they would like to do. So this is kind of unique where it's not a one-day event or a one type of event similar to parade, carnival, that kind of stuff. It's going throughout the summer. From a budget point of view, we did not budget any revenue from this facility since it's new this year. So is this something where council might want to waive said fees for this for the first time? Or is this something that we would want to use some of the room tax we keep to help fund this as maybe a sponsor? Just food for thought if that's something we're open to. Mr. Barnett?
I personally think that with the newness of it, that in hopes that this event will encourage more people to recognize the stage and want to utilize the stage to put on concert series and all that, I would be absolutely okay with waiving the fees for this first time go around. Not to say that that's going to set a precedent, but I think that that stage needs to get broken in, and I think this is the best opportunity to do that and get the word out there that it is available.
Ms. Daniel?
I can understand that. However, I'm wondering if we want to waive them completely or just reduce the fees.
We'd be perfectly fine if
Yeah, I know
the council's
NRG
willing
is
to.
flush with cash.
I
so
don't know that I would go quite that far, but.
And I'd like to nominate Mr. Shane Sparks for the Tourism Committee. Anyway.
By chance, do you own a hotel?
I do
He
not.
does not. However, he is interested in getting more tourism here. But I would say a reduced fee, perhaps, because I'm imagining you're looking at making money somehow on this. Having worked in the radio industry, they don't do anything unless there's some money involved.
Oh, I don't know. I will take a slight offense to that. I mean, truly, we worked with the city of Rhinelander
Sure.
to help put on that first
Sure.
initial concert.
Yeah.
We technically lost money. I mean, we gave money to help support the event. So to say that we do everything for just the purpose of gaining money, but there will be sponsorship opportunities, Eileen.
And it will
Yeah,
benefit
I've
us
heard.
with our name associated with the event.
Sure,
But
sure,
it makes
absolutely.
But I think a reduced, we'd be perfectly fine with that.
Okay.
Much
Any-
appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Austin, just for clarification, what would it cost them per day? Is it just a $100 special event fee, pretty much?
If we're doing a special event, yes, plus the cost of the shelter.
Okay.
So you're looking at $50
So
per.
putting $150 per event?
I can comment on that, Chris. I've run the numbers. It's $1,200 for the entire series.
12. Ms. Michalowski?
I agree with at least reducing the fees, and then, like you said, there might be some sponsorships that could possibly help pay for the remaining fees. And I think that we could use part of that tourism budget to do this, because this is ultimately a service that's being provided to market this area. So I think it fits all the way around in all aspects of it,
So just to keep stuff moving, ideally, if we do want to do a reduced fee or a sponsorship, tonight would be a good night to do it, just to keep everything moving. Mr. Anderson?
I move that we charge NRG Media for the summer concert series half of the usual amount.
Mikulowski, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing none, since it's a dollar amount. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Carrie McCloskey.
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
David Holt.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. So that would be about $600 for fees. Any other topics to discuss regarding this? The other part is I would love to be your first sponsor for your first event, and I encourage all my other elected officials to sponsor the other remaining 7 as well. So thank you guys so much for providing to our
Thank you
community.
very much.
We appreciate it.
Sarah, come see me.
Okay, moving on to number 10, future agenda items. Anything anyone would like to add? Mr. Jopek?
I was driving up Highway 17 and would like to inquire about the plan for the purchased billboard, just if there's any updates on lighting and whatnot.
So I believe, and I don't know if Wendy's in the background, but I believe we just finalized the purchase of it last week, because it was going through the DOT with permit processes. So now that we officially own it, we'll move forward. So, but we could add it as a future agenda item for whatever we want to do with it. Any other topics for future agenda items? Ms. Mikulowski?
Yeah, I would just like to discuss how we do the procedure for mayoral appointments.
Okay. Any other topics for future agenda items? Not seeing none. It is 7:50, meeting adjourned.